apex predator.
Of all the superhero films released in 2012, Chronicle is one of those films I consider the best among them all. To truly understand the audacity of the statement, this is the year that the superhero genre gave us films like The Amazing Spider-Man, Avengers, The Dark Knight Rises, and Dredd. In terms of production budget, Chronicle doesn't hold a candle to most of the films on this list with budgets in excess of $100 million. The entire budget for this film was only $15 million. Furthermore, all the films on this list have great action set pieces, costume designs, and incredible CGI to boot. All these things are things Chronicle simply doesn't have. But what makes Chronicle better than these movies, in my opinion, is the simple fact that the movie tells you an intimately human story using the gimmick of found footage in a genre that is saturated with ghosts among men saving the day. And the story that is told here will stick with you as it makes you feel in ways that these big budget productions will never do. Now let's get this out of the way quickly. Me saying that Chronicle is the best superhero film of 2012 doesn't mean that the rest are not good movies. Far from it. If there was a gun to my head, my ranking for the best superhero films in 2012 will be Avengers, which I consider good, Dredd, which was better, and Chronicle being the best. The Amazing Spider-Man lacks the charm of the Sam Raimi originals, and The Dark Knight Rises was not that good. If you consider the masterpiece that was The Dark Knight, then the final movie in the Nolan trilogy doesn't even make it to the level of The Batman Begins, but I digress. But the thing that makes Chronicle special is the simple yet relatable story, how deeply engrossing this film is due to its narrative, and finally the feeling of quote-unquote realness that you will often get while engrossed in this movie, even though the premise is partly fictional. There are no gods among men fighting to stop an invasion of the earth, and there is no billionaire with all the money in the world who fights crime by beating up mostly poor people. This is simply a found footage film from the perspective of our main character, Andrew Dirtmer. It captures his life, his story, his struggles and pain as he tries to figure himself out in a world that sometimes feels like he's not welcome in. As a side note, the movie is called Chronicle because it's a self-documentation of the life of our main character by himself. And given how the movie ends, this is also why a sequel would not work. But the movie works as a great character study. So Chronicle is a debut film from Josh Trank and is based on a script from Max Landis. The movie is the answer to the question, what do you think happens when someone who has mostly known pain in their life gains superpowers? Well, the answer to that question will definitely not be Spider-Man, but you will believe a nerd can fly. And you will most definitely believe his pain and his wrath. Unfortunately, you can't really discuss this movie without breaking it down to the nuts and bolts, so I'll give you a quick summary and then we can dive in fully. Chronicle follows the life of Andrew Dirtmer, an unpopular, bullied and antisocial high school senior. Andrew is a product of his environment with an alcoholic dad at home and a mom terminally ill with lung cancer. At school, he often sticks to his own company or with his cousin Matt. Later, he becomes friends with Steve, who is his opposite in every way, but they build a genuine friendship. The three of them gains powers while exploring the woods during a school party. They start practicing with their newfound abilities, which grows with time. The ability feeds on an emotion to an extent, and Andrew is the most gifted one among the three friends. Unfortunately, as Andrew grows stronger, his trouble in his life and at home also compounds. The only difference now is the fact that Andrew is one of the most powerful telekinetic people in the world. Eventually, Andrew gives into his darker traits as he lets his power consume him and his actions. It does not end well for the three friends, and by the end of the film, two are unfortunately dead while one is alive to keep their memories alive while searching for answers. Like I said, it's a very simple story, but the interesting thing here is how the story is told. You see, this movie makes an effort to show you every detail that leads to the unfolding of the tragic events by making use of its framing mechanism of found footage. And funny enough, this movie works so well because it's found footage. In the year 2012, we were still relatively new to the whole smartphone era. At that time, we were getting social media apps like Snapchat, Instagram, and YouTube. So it was completely plausible that young people would be filming with phones and camcorders on a daily basis. The framing works naturally here, whereas other less intelligent films have to dig through bedrock to find a workable reason. And at many points in this film, characters will often question Andrew's obsession with filming himself and everything around him, and it often leads to conflicts for him. But I will say this movie is beautifully shot for a found footage film, but that's easily explained. The ability the characters have is telekinetic in nature, and as such, they can hold the camera up with their power while they go about their activities. Oftentimes, CCTV footage and mirrors are used to show you this phenomenon in action. It's a simple thing, but it's actually kinda genius. Now, Chronicle is a deconstruction of the whole notion of power and responsibility. The trope of comics and anime is normally this. A powerless person often has an encounter with something external, and as a result, they gain superpowers. One Piece, Bleach, and Tokyo Ghoul are all popular anime that follow this trend. I mention anime especially because the premise of this movie bears some elements from classic anime like Akira. When it comes to Western comics, we have Captain America, Spider-Man, and The Flash as some of the most famous examples of characters with this trope. Plus, if we are being honest, every person has once wished they had superpowers in their life. We all had our reasons for wanting these powers, but we have all had that fantasy before. There is a reason why superhero stories and superheroes have committed and active fandoms after all. We imagine being them and we live vicariously through them. And I will admit it can be fun. Chronicle takes the same trope and applies it entirely to the human condition and human emotions, both negative and positive. And what is derived here is a cautionary tale on being careful what you wish for, because it might not be all that it's cracked up to be. The movie opens with the perspective of our main character, Andrew. He is played by Dandy Han and his performance here is brilliant. In a few short minutes, Trank communicates to the audience exactly what the situation is. He has a camera he's testing out, and when his father bangs on the door, he simply tells him, "I'm recording everything now," and he stops. This tells the audience that the scenario here is far from normal. You must also understand that Han is playing a teenager here, which makes the whole situation feels kind of extra helpless. Next, we are shown the status of his mom, who is terminally ill. Even though she is in pain, she still makes time to compliment her child. This communicates to the audience that Andrew does love his mother and that love is reciprocal. His home is not as safe on his account of his father, yet he knows love on account of his mom. The pain to come will be when he inevitably loses her, and the subtext tells you that the family's dysfunction stems from the mom's illness. Both Andrew and his father do not know how to handle pain. Andrew's dad was a former firefighter that got injured on the job and is now living on disability checks. In a sense, he is a man that has lost his purpose and has replaced that with alcohol and abuse. You throw in a sick wife on top of that, and that is bound to stir up feelings of inadequacy and helplessness. His outlet for the anger he feels is the episodes he unleashes on Andrew at home. This treatment has led Andrew himself to feel powerless in his own life. In school, Andrew has no social standing at all and is constantly bullied. He is close to his cousin Matt, and apart from that, he has no social life, no social skills. This movie can be hard to watch sometimes. The abuse and bullying is not implied like in most movies, it's rather explicit. You witness the horrible reality Andrew faces every day. He is slapped by bullies in school for fun because they can. When he is in his room, his father barges in and slaps him for not opening the door earlier. The message effectively being communicated to you is that Andrew has no will to live in his own life. What Trank manages to do here is capture the essence of teenage life in a group environment like high school, or as we call it in the UK, college. It gives you the understanding that kids can be very cruel at this stage in life, and it's not entirely due to malice. Oftentimes, this is the stage where every person is trying to find their standing in the societal hierarchy, and emotional intelligence don't really factor highly in that hierarchy. So it's a refreshing thing where we meet Steve Montgomery, played by Michael B. Jordan. He is the cool overachiever with the heart of gold, and he is quick to befriend Andrew. Steve also has his own issues at home. His parents are always fighting, and he suspects that his mom is cheating on his dad. But he still retains his sense of self through that mess. He and Matt becomes a safe space for Andrew, and that feeling intensifies after they discover the meteorite that gives them their power. When the three begin training their abilities, you are subtly shown that Andrew has the most potential as he excels, and you get the feeling that this is the first time he's good at something. There is a scene in this movie where Andrew takes his mom for a day out, and she knows she won't be long before she passes. She tells Andrew how she has always seen him, that he is stronger than he thinks he is, and Andrew can't even keep eye contact because he feels like it's a goodbye. But it's after this scene that Andrew really decides to push the boundaries of his power as he starts fantasizing about being more than he is. At first, they are just playing with it and pulling pranks on people and generally having fun. I mean, they are teenagers and this kind of thing is kind of expected. This part of the film is genuinely funny and not a single witty dialogue is required. But the more they use their power, the stronger they become. Initially, they can only move rocks and baseballs, but with time, they can move cars. And it's at this point in the film that Andrew starts showing a glimpse of the darkness that he has been hiding. When the driver starts honking at them on the road, Andrew with a flick of his hand throws the car off the road into a river. And when Matt and Steve are trying to make him understand how messed up it was, he simply doesn't get it. But they keep pushing their abilities and they begin to fly with their power. And again, Andrew excels at it. In one of the most coolest scenes in this film, they are flying and Steve is nearly hit by a plane. Andrew saves his life by flying faster than the two can. The reaction from Steve and Matt makes the moment feel real, even though you know it's a film. This harrowing experience also allows Andrew and Steve to bond on a deeper level as they get comfortable sharing their problems at home and their experiences. Whenever I watch this film, it's this kind of moments that elevates this movie in my perspective above movies like Avengers. Don't get me wrong, there are scenes like that in Avengers, for example when Loki is captured and Widow's background is hinted at, but it pales in comparison to what we get here. You feel like this can actually happen to someone, and that possibility is due to the fact that the world is a big place. You will never get that feeling that some Asgardian with a hammer will come down and save the day, nor some billionaire with an advanced suit of armor will fight to save the world. Your mind instinctively tells you that is pure fiction. Whereas in Chronicle, you will at least entertain the possibility that this is true as is a human story. But I digress. But inevitably, things begin to go downhill fast in this film. It begins after Andrew possibly has the best night of his life in his high school talent show. While not meant to be taken as a prophecy, Matt tells a happy Andrew while they are driving back to the party at Steve's house that this is the beginning of his downfall. And unfortunately, he has no idea how right he is. You see, Andrew gets drunk and pukes in the hair of the girl that he is supposed to lose his virginity with. The reaction to this incident ends up regressing him back to the shame-ridden, bullied high school senior that he was. Except this time, he actually has power that can affect his environment in a drastic way. Andrew begins to embrace his darkest thoughts. He refines his power to the point that he can shred a spider to pieces with just a mere thought. When his father tries to unload his anger on him with one of his abusive tantrums, Andrew instead pins him to the wall telepathically and nearly crushes him. When Steve picks up on his distress and tries to talk to him, Andrew accidentally kills him. And this is the point in the film where he actually embraces the mentality of the apex predator. You see, Andrew now has the mentality of superiority and considers everyone else around him inferior. His reasoning is based on evolution and natural selection. In his opinion, the strong must dominate the weak, so everything goes. In one of the most haunting scenes in this film, Andrew details his thought process to his camera while in a junkyard. And it's one of the most horrifying things I've actually heard on camera. If you can find that scene on YouTube, you will understand what I mean. When one of his bullies in school makes fun of him, he telepathically pulls out his teeth and documents it again to his camera. He shows his actual grip on his power by crashing a car like a piece of cardboard. Again, Matt tries to pull him back from the brink, but Andrew has grown more powerful than him, and he can't do anything to stop him. Andrew's only connection to his humanity remains his mother, and his father cannot afford the medication that's required to keep her alive. So for the sake of his mother, Andrew starts to use his power to rob people while documenting his actions. Now you may ask yourself why such a powerful person like Andrew would want to rob people. But here's the thing, he's supposed to be a teenager here. He's trying to find the most immediate way to get what his mother needs. His mother needs a medicine, he needs money. I rob from the drug dealers, I get my money. That's how he's thinking. But in his attempt to rob the drug dealers, he is entirely ruthless. That scene is quite hard to watch as well in the film, considering what he does to them just for a few dollars, but then again it's expected. Andrew is still the apex predator in his mind. Human life has no value to him anymore. But Andrew finds out that after all his effort, the money was still not enough, so he decides to rob a petrol station. The attendant tries to retaliate with a shotgun, and Andrew, using his power to defend himself, causes an accident which leaves him hospitalized and burnt. Unfortunately for Andrew, his mother dies while he is hospitalized. When his father again tries to make his mother's passing his fault, Andrew gives up on the notion of control, giving in entirely to the destructive aspect of his power. The last act of this film is not some heroic final battle where the good guys beat the bad guys and save the world. It's simply a kid who has been in pain for most of his life, unleashing all that pain in the form of anger and destruction in a town center. The people that are caught in his path are simply innocents and public servants trying to do their job. It's not a glorious combat with cool poses, cool powers and action moves. It's a fight in the mud between two teenagers who are only there because the circumstance and trauma in their life has brought them to this point. So trust me when I tell you that there is no heroic moment here when Matt impales Andrew with a spear from a statue to stop him from harming more people. The moment is a condemnation of a society that allows a teenager to grow up in an environment that he can no longer feel safe in. In the final scene of this film, Andrew is still wearing his hospital attire while absolutely covered in burn marks. Yet whenever he fell, no one tried to help him up, they just filmed. And you know they just filmed because this film is found footage, remember? When the police corner him, he is unarmed, yet they open fire on him. Yes, Andrew stops all the bullets and counters, and in the end, the only person trying to help him, Matt, is forced to put him down to end his pain. The movie ends with Matt at Tibet filming the monastery for Andrew as he promises to the camera to find answers for what happened to them. Andrew wanted to go to Tibet as he thought the environment would be spiritual and healing on account of all the monks.
I've always wanted to go to Tibet.
Why Tibet?
Tibet? Yeah, I don't know. It seems really beautiful, you know? The monuments and mountains, you know? I don't know. And the monks have achieved such a high level of enlightenment that they can float and shit, you know? So we would fit right in.
We could really mess with their heads as well.
Yeah, but like seriously, I think we should go. It would be really cool. Peaceful.
Andrew's dream was a subtle way of telling the audience that he was not really violent. He was only made so in order to survive in a cruel world. He was simply a creature of circumstance. Now, I have never felt like it was a shame we never got a sequel to this movie, because in my opinion, it's not necessary. This movie tells you all you need to know in its 90 minutes of runtime, and I feel like it was more than enough. This is one of those films that everyone needs to watch at least once in their lives. You can watch it on Disney Plus or you can watch it on the high seas. It doesn't matter how you get your hands on it, just get your hands on it and experience it. You won't forget it. The unfortunate thing about this movie is the fact that the creative team behind it no longer have careers in Hollywood. And I doubt we will ever get anything like that in our modern landscape of superhero movies. But the legacy of this film has stood for 13 years and it will be one of those films that will be remembered in our film history. So for that, the creators should be proud of what they have accomplished. Till next time, friends.